Hello, builders. Welcome back. Today is day 3 of the MyxoTech website build, and we don't have a lot of time today. I'm trying to keep this below 30 minutes, but I decided that I'm going to build that goddamn button if it's the last thing I do today. So here we are. I want to start off first, though, with talking about what kind of solution I found for this problem where there was a top margin on the heading that was kind of messing with our layout. So there's one solution where I could just turn this into a span tag, which actually I didn't do, but I initially did, and then I looked it up I posted on Facebook, and Mr. Dave Foy himself, also Kevin Geary, gave me a couple of pointers here. So what is actually correct is to just in the structure have the heading first, and then it's followed by a paragraph. Even though the paragraph is visually the pre-heading, it makes sense just structurally in terms of hierarchy, in terms of text hierarchy, to have this pre-heading, the paragraph following the actual heading. So that's where it is. So why now on the actual website is it still appearing in front? So let me just remove this little reminder that I made for myself, and I'm going to go through this. If we look at the head wrapper, the div that contains this heading, we see that I now set this to flex, and I set the direction to vertical column. And now inside here, I have the heading first, and then I have the pre-heading. But since the container is a flex, I can give the pre-heading an order. And the order is -1. So that puts the pre-heading at the bottom, at the top visually. If it was 0, it would already be below, right? And if we had more than one thing in here, let's say I add another 2 pre-headings, I put the heading here, right? Now if I pick this last pre-heading and I give it an order of, I don't know, 2, then it moves there, right? And if I now give the heading an order of 4, then it moves to the bottom. So with this order in CSS, with this order declaration, we can actually move things around inside here. So now I messed the whole thing up. So let's see, the heading doesn't get an order. Let's see, you have no order today, no order at all. But the pre-heading, we're setting that to -1, bada bing, bada boom, and it appears at the top, even though semantically, structurally, it is correctly placed below the heading. So if a screen reader now reads this, a blind person looks at the website, they're going to hear MyxoTech unlocking microbial dark matter chemistry, chemical diversity for a new era. So I think, well, no, let's see. Yeah, important point here. So before we actually start now, I'm going to set the stopwatch today to 20 minutes because I spent time earlier today working on the button, and I pre-wrote a whole bunch of CSS so that I don't, have to show you or make you sit through me just watching that whole CSS right now. So I've prepared how I'm going to build this button, and we're going to start the stopwatch. So we're 20 minutes into today's build, and we are going to first go to theme settings, theme styles, and we will go to element button because we just want to globally do whatever styling is necessary for the button right here in the bricks settings. So the style, actually, let me go back to the button first. By default, if you place a button, it is size default and style primary. And this is also what we want to do. We want to style our primary button here, which is in fact actually the only button that we have for this website. There is no, actually, I'm kind of wrong. We could make the secondary button just the negative version of that, but we're going to start with our primary button here. So the primary button we go here, theme styles, element button. Default style is that it has the Saira font. right? You can see this here. It's not this monospace font, but it is the Saira font that is being used for this button. Actually, is it? Button text. What is this? No. Where's the button text? There. Usually it's under my mouse cursor. DM Sans. Why is this DM Sans? This makes no sense. It shouldn't be. So it should be Saira, and that's what we're going to use. So this is our button, and we are going to set a primary style for it. Background color. Let me see what if happens if here. Yeah, so the background color is already determined by the primary style. So we go here to background color and we make this transparent. I'm sure it's not going to surprise you that we're going to have to do a bunch of custom CSS here to get this effect that we want on this button. So here we go, and until further notice, I'm actually going to make the background slightly visible. So yeah, just something like this. So we see the dimensions of our button. And we're gonna go, it won't have a border. We're gonna, we're gonna have this border thing here that I'm gonna design with custom CSS. We won't have a, wait, where are we? So border, box shadow, none of that stuff, but padding. So we're gonna have here the size, general size, I think it's just medium. See? No, what's the normal size? Oh, size default. Well, yeah. We're gonna have, first of all, I want to match the opposing sides here. So we go to space M. And then at the edges, I want to have no spacing because this button is going to be transparent in terms of background. So I want it to be aligned vertically with that line here, right? So we're going to go here, just going to set this to 0, right? So this is roughly going already going where I wanted to go. Now, yesterday I was using WP Codebox to write a bunch of CSS, and I'm probably gonna, on future builds, start using the CSS, the advanced CSS functionality that is built into Advanced Themer, and I'm gonna start doing that today. So I'm undecided about this, but for now, especially right now where I wanna just see what I'm doing live, I'm going to use Advanced Themers ACS, Advanced CSS, not ACSS, Advanced CSS here, and immediately write my CSS there. So what do we want to target? We want to target button.brxe-button. That is the class that identifies Brix's button, and we want to give that some design. We've got the padding already set. We've got the color already set. But we want it to be position relative because we're going to be working with before and after, and those need to be positioned absolutely. So they need to be absolute to their parent, to the next ancestor that is relative or anything non-default, which is in our case this button. Transition, all is in 0.2 seconds. Is that the right order? I know any order works, but I want to get this right. So transition CSS shorthand. I'm Googling this on my other screen. Yeah, I thought that was wrong. 0.2 seconds is in. There. This is really all we need here. The rest, again, I already said here. So while I'm here, I can close this. Nah, doesn't matter. We're going to save this CSS real quick. And we're going to be using, we're going to start with the before and after right away. Button.brxe button.brxe. colon before, comma, and the after as well. Squiggly brackets. So obviously we don't need any content in this, but we need to declare the content property because otherwise it's not going to show. There's a comma here that doesn't belong there. We want position absolute, of course. We want it to be border width 2 pixels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a before and after. Let me see here. This up here is our before and this down here is our after. And they're just 2 boxes. And they have borders here with, you know, no border at the bottom and then borders here with no border at the top. And I'm just going to absolutely position them to be where I want them to be, like this. Border width 2 pixels. Looks fine. We're going to have border color. Action, our action color. This is the green. We want to have border style, solid. And the height of this should be 1.2 rem. Because the padding here is 2 rem or, you know, 20 pixels. So 1.2 rem gets us close to that. Actually, probably since the padding shrinks on smaller devices, we will need to use a clamp function for that. As in, we need to make a spacing variable. Do I do that now? I'm going to take note of that for later because we're going to do the responsive design towards the end of the build, right? So I'm going to write that down in my project management. Responsive design. Remember, clamp var for button before and after. So for now, just to make it look the way we want it to look, we're going to use this. Width is a calc 100% minus 1 rem. Why? Because you can see already, right? You can see the green thing here. It's already starting to take shape. I don't ever want it to reach the exact edges of the button or the button text, because when I have it up here, I always want to have that effect that the text slightly extends past the boundaries of this decoration, right? So that's why I'm giving it a width of 100% and I'm subtracting 1 rem from it, so we can see that the text is a little bit removed from that. We're gonna see, but we do want a max width of, what did I choose? You see 8 rem. Yeah, wonderful. Very nice. And then we have also transition. Actually, I don't even think I need a transition on the button. I only need that transition on the before and after. Because for the hover effect that I have planned, by the way, that I haven't yet fully worked out, so I'm gonna be tinkering with this during our build today. I want that transition to happen. So button, now we're gonna do the before. Also, if you're watching this on a cell phone, let's just quickly zoom in here and look through this together. So this is the CSS that I already wrote, right? So we have the button brxe button, and the button itself as the parent of everything else we're doing here with these before and after pseudo elements. We're setting that to position relative, and then the pseudo elements before and after, I gave it a content of nothing, position absolute, border width of 2 pixels. I just talked you through it, but I want you to be able to read it once more, right? So you have it here, border style solid, height 1.2 rem, width calc, and so on. Cool. And now we're building this before, and we're going to build the after. Actually, why don't we just stay? Oh, we don't stay zoomed in because otherwise I don't see my notes. There we go. Button. So the before is top 0. And we have border bottom 0 or none. You can type both. And then the same thing here with a button.brxe button after. And of course, this is going to be bottom 0. And it's going to be, wait, why did it happen? Is it not happening? Because I misspelled this. And it's going to be border top 0. Okie dokie. Wait, what? I'm not typing so well today. And now we can see that this is already looking nice, right? This is our button. Just imagine that this background isn't there. Then we already have the button looking the way we want it to look. Now I want a hover effect, and my hover effect should be that when I hover over this, the whole background grows to 100% width. And I want it to fill with a green backdrop. Although I'm not yet 100% sure if I like that effect. I haven't yet seen it. So that's what we're going to do now together. Let's bring up ACSS. No, it's not AC. Oh God, if Kevin ever watches this, he's gonna destroy me. Let's bring up AT's CSS thingamabob. So button.brx e button colon hover colon before, and the same thing with after. So I want to tell it what's supposed to happen if I hover the mouse over this, and we want width 100% and also max width 100%. Semicolon. Save. Right. Isn't that nice? Oh, wait, yeah. There. Now, yeah, how do we make... Now I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to get rid of that backdrop because we don't need it anymore. Element button, style, primary background, color, transparent. There, and now we have this lovely thing. I'm actually wondering if perhaps that might be all we need, but I want to tinker around with this. So we are going to go back to CSS. We're going to have button.brxe button hover. And then we're going to have a background color. Actually, we don't even need to do this here. We can do it in the UI. So I go here to hover. And we want the style. No, wait. Oh, I'm wrong. Never mind. I don't want the button, the whole parent, to have a green color, because then we're kind of losing the effect of this expanding. What I do want is the green color to expand alongside this decoration. So we're going back in here and we want to have hover before and hover after. And here is where we're going to put the background. Background action. Let's see what happens. Well, nothing. This is one thing. As long as you have advanced CSS open from advanced themer, you don't get these effects don't work. Yeah, obviously that's how it works. That's what happens. I like where this is going, because what we can do here, if I grow the size of this height 100%, look at that. Isn't that nice? It's happening a little bit fast, perhaps. Obviously, we're going to have to work with the... Let's first get the easy stuff out of the way. So I'm gonna have to put a z-index on the before and after. Z-index -1. And I'm gonna have to isolate the whole shebang so that, because it's its own context, because otherwise -1 will put it behind all the other stuff on this website. And I only want the stacking context to be in the isolation, in the button itself. Isolate, there. And now if I hover, the text is still visible, right? We are going to have to change the color of the text because this is not going to be really legible on the green background. Also, the screen is aggressive if we really fill it up that way. This is just stuff that I obviously didn't design in Figma, right? So I'm kind of making it up. I'm obviously not kind of very much making it up as I go along. We might end up with a completely different effect in the end, but I just haven't decided yet. Also, I need to comment my CSS. So the button Brixie button is just a button parent, then decoration outlines, and top decoration, and here this is the bottom decoration. And these are the hover effects. So when we're hovering over the button, it gets another text color. Style primary, hover, typography, color, dark. Okay, and now I undo the hover. There, right? And what I kind of need to do now, well, first of all, I want to work on the both how the text is going to fit into the button when it hovers. I kind of want to shrink the text a little so there's some padding between the text and the edges. And I want to, but I don't want the whole button to shrink when you hover on it. I want it to keep the same width, which is something that I haven't yet thought through. I'll be very honest about that. So we'll see how this pans out. Transition it here. It was width, now it's max width. So now that effect is there, and I like it. I also like how the lines, the vertical lines, if you look closely, how they just bounce back when you unhover. That is a kind of neat effect, but I don't yet like how the button looks when it's actually hovered. So this is my next challenge. And I'm going to pause the recording again. I'm going to come up with something, and then I'm going to show you what I came up with. All right, just to come back here for a moment, because this animation is getting pretty elaborate. I'm still not finished with it, but I want to show you guys what I did in the meantime. So we have, I set the overflow to hidden. I don't think I even need that at the moment, so let's get rid of this. But if I go to the hover styles here, I have a background. I set the height of the before and after during hover to 60%, so that basically the bottom thing, this one, grows to 60% in this direction, and this one grows to 60% in this direction. And at the same time, I'm taking them down a little. So this one moves down a little, and this one moves up a little, and they grow to 60%. So they basically overshoot each other. And I'm gonna make this animation real slow so you guys can see what's happening. So I set the transition to 0.6 seconds here, and again, this down here is what I'm doing with it, right? The hover before and the hover after grows to height 60%, and the Brixie button hover before and after, they go to bottom and top 1.5 rem, so they're moving down and up a little. So let's take a look at how this actually pans out. Right. I thought it's a kind of nice effect. Actually, I like it if it's that slower of an effect. Yeah, some nice stuff, right? So this is going in a smooth direction here, but what I still want to happen is that, you know, when I hover, I don't want this to just touch the edges. So again, I want to kind of shrink the font size, but then at the same time, or just shrink the button, I guess, and then at the same time increase the padding so it actually stays the same size and it looks like the text just shrinks back a little. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull that off, but we're going to find out. Okay, so if I hover now, I decrease the text size just by going font size 80%. I can go 90% or whatnot, right? And then I increase the padding, the inline padding, and I just eyeballed it and picked 1 rem. But if we just look at the sizes of the button in non-hover and hover state, so we got 144 by 58, and then if I hover, we've got, come on, 157 by what, 32? That's wrong. Yeah, actually, God, I'm making this harder on myself, I think, than I should. I'm not really sure. I kind of like where this is going, but it's a bit all over the place right now. It's kind of messy. So this is gonna have to wait, period, because I wanna have dinner. It's pretty much as simple as that. I'm gonna come back and wrangle that button into submission at a later date. And I'm out of here. Bye. Hello folks, this is Matt from the future. I just wanted to quickly follow up on how I decided to design this button. So I put a bunch instances of the button here to just show this. And we have a couple buttons here that are next to each other, and you can see that when you hover over them, the one thing that, I decided to live with is that when you hover over the button, it changes its width a little. So what I initially wanted to do is I wanted to decrease the font size. So this goes down to 80% when I hover, right? And to compensate for that, to sort of keep the same width of the button, I wanted to add some padding. And also in order to have, just to have the padding here so the text doesn't touch the edges of the button when hovered, which doesn't look nice, right? But if I bring the font size down to 80%, I would need a way to calculate whatever this padding would need to be so that the actual button itself, maintains its original width when hovering. And this, according to ChatGPT, which of course is the ultimate authority, isn't possible without JavaScript. So I had a lot of back and forth conversation about this with ChatGPT, and it seems like this is really something that would require JavaScript, which I'm not an expert at and I don't want to use unless I absolutely have no choice. And I figured this is fair enough. This is really okay. So I'm giving this 1.2 rem inline padding here. And again, the text gets a little smaller. And I think the end effect is pretty nice. It looks cool. The other thing that I wanted to protect was the height that changes if I hover, right? Because again, the text gets smaller. So that means that we have a height here that, will change, and it will mean that layout elements that come after this button shift up and down. You can see this here, right? And for that, there's actually a solution. I just need to give the button a fixed line height. I go into the CSS, and here the button bricks e button here, we're going to give it a line height 2 rem. And that's just the line height that this button is always going to have. And now if I save and refresh on the front end, we can see that the button's got a little higher. And then if I do this, the line height, even though the actual text shrinks, right? The font size shrinks, but the line height, the line in which the text appears, stays 20 pixels high to rem. So that's how we fix this, right? And we are gonna take one last look at the CSS because I did a little bit of housekeeping and cleaning up here, and I'm gonna just walk you through this really quickly. The parent CSS is what we already discussed. It's relative, it's isolated, it's got line height to rem. We discussed why. We also discussed how I built the before and after. And the before and the after used to have a transition here, or actually two transition rules that we don't really need. Again, there also was this transition declaration here on the button itself, and I just put that transition declaration down here as unified, right? All three, the button, the before, and the after, all have the same transition. It's I decided it's going to be 0.3 seconds, and that's what we have here. Let's go back up a little. Button decoration. So we're good, right? Z-index and all that stuff we discussed. We've got the before and the after, which we discussed, that align to the top and bottom with the borders open in the right spots. And the hover stuff is here. I decided again that the font size should go to 80% when I'm hovering. The padding inline should go to 1.2 rem, so left and right padding. And the hover effects for the before and after will be that they both grow to 100% with also a max width of 100%, so they really extend to the edges. And we have the green background color for this, and the height is going to extend to 40% so that, you know, they sort of flow into each other and slightly overlap each other, which brings that effect that we're seeing. And again, the Brixie button hover before. Right, the before and after, I'm moving them down a little so that, you know, the whole thing becomes a rectangle that is not as high as the original button. So I go back here. Oops, come on. Right, just to show this effect really in slow motion so you can see what we actually built. I'm going to give this, I don't know, like 7 seconds here. That's too much. Let's give it 2 seconds. Save, reload, and we should be, yeah, you can see how, you know, this before is the up and down at the top and bottom, the before and after, they look like this before you hover, and then when you hover, they grow to the width of 100%, and they have a background that fades in, and the height of each before and after grows to 40%, which means along the way they touch and overlap each other. And that's how we get this really nifty button hover effect. So I'm going to set this back to 0.3 seconds, and we are good for episode 4. Thank you very much for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.